Right guys, so this next series of videos is going to look at aspects of songwriting and looking at how we can improve our songwriting and create better music. This particular video is kind of looking at how we can get trapped with using the same chords all the time, and how we can use ninth chords to vary our chords and make them sound a bit more interesting and get your music sounding a bit more interesting. So let's get stuck in and hear two versions of the same chord progression. Right, so let's look at what I was doing in that first progression. Now, these are all really simple chords that, if you're a songwriter, I would imagine that you use quite often, okay? So we've got a G, a D, and a C. Now, these are all very common in a variety of styles of music: country, pop, folk. But they can get a bit repetitive, so I'm going to show you some variations, well, a variation each for those three chords, okay? So in the second time of playing, I didn't play a G. I played a G, add 9. Okay? So here I'm still playing the 3rd fret of the low E string, still playing the 2nd fret of the A string, but I'm adding the 2nd fret of the G string in, which is the note of A, which gives me that add 9, because in the G major scale, there's my note of A. Okay. Now I really like the sound of these add 9 chords and major 9 chords. They give it quite an open feel. Okay. For the second chord, I'm playing a D add 9. Now I'm using a C-shaped chord here. So that's my original D major, 5th fret of the A string with my little finger, 4th fret of the D string with my 3rd finger, 2nd fret of the G string with my 1st finger, and the 3rd fret of the D string, 3rd fret of the B string, sorry, with my middle finger. Then I'm actually barring my 1st finger across the high E string as well. Now instead, I'm going to play it like this. Okay, so I'm not going to bar my 1st finger, I'm going to leave the high E string open, and that gives us that D add 9. Okay, so those two chords together. Sound very different from our G to our D. They give it a bit more of an interesting sound. I always think that add 9 chords sound a little bit dreamy, so if you want to add that feel to your music, then these are really good chords to use. Now instead of the C chord, I actually used a C major 9 chord. Okay. Now the difference between a major 9 and an add 9 chord is that our major 9 chord has the major 7th interval in it, which in this case will be the note of B. So, here's our 3 chords together. We've got G add 9, D add 9, and C major 9. Okay. One bit of advice I would give is, if you are looking to kind of get into extending your chords and using different chords, a really good thing to learn would be the intervals of your major scale. So I used the 9th interval in all of these chords, which basically just means that I'm adding the 2nd note of the scale. I use the word 9 because it's kind of the terminology I'm used to, and normally that interval is above my major 7 in terms of octave. This is something that you should really kind of look into if you are looking to kind of expand your chord knowledge. But right now, there's 3 examples of how you can change your basic G, D, and C into something a bit more musical. Okay, so that major 9 chord is going to be the 3rd fret of the A string. My first finger's playing the 2nd fret of the D string. My little finger's playing the 4th fret of the G string, and my 3rd finger's playing the 3rd fret of the B string. Now in this instance you can leave the high E string open as well because it is in our chord. Okay, so there are 3 examples of how you can change your simple chords and make your songwriting a little bit more interesting. These chords will work in all the styles mentioned before. Best thing I suggest is to get experimenting. So yeah, this series of songwriting videos is going to cover a whole range of things, different chords to use like this one, how to put chords together, styles, you know, altering the style that you would normally play with to get different feels and tones to your music. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.